Guys, and welcome back to the channel once again. I am back. I have got the 58 plate Ford Fiesta, so 1.4 diesel that my mate has got. Problems upon problems. The injectors went the other week, and now we have problems with the clutch. And he said there's white smoke, but the white smoke is nothing to do with the clutch. He's actually got quite a bit of an oil leak. I suspect it's the valve cover gasket, but we might have to do some more digging on that. The entire underside is saturated in oil and a bit of fuel, so I don't know whether a seal on the injector or one of the actual fuel lines, something's happened there, but he's got a lot of fluid coming out. But yeah, we're gonna dig into the clutch. I've pulled it in and I've jacked it up, and what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try and explain to you as I'm going. It should be a pretty simple job, and that's the funny thing, it never is, but we're gonna crack on as best as we can. We gotta get this done, well, back on wheels by the end of the day, because I cannot close the garage with the car like this. So we're gonna just try and get as much done today as possible, and hopefully have it done hopefully by tomorrow. But yeah, try and get it done today. Let's go. Right, so I just looked at the footage and that wasn't a good angle. I am sorry about that, but I've taken the plastic cover off there. There's an 8mm bolt just in there, and there's a 19mm bolt holding the gearbox fluid in. I've also taken the gear linkage off there. What I'm going to do next is have a look at the drive shafts. Yeah, that's pretty much where we are at the moment, guys. I'm going to try and improve the camera angles. It's just very awkward to get under here and sort of film, but I will try my best for you. Oh yeah, and I'm going to drop the lower arms off the hubs as well, so I'll crack on with that and I'll update you once it's done. So, nice little bit of exercise on a Monday morning. Bottom ball joints are out. I don't know how well you can see that because I've got so many lights on the go. That is out, and the other side is out. It was T45 and a 17mm bolt holding this in to the knuckle. And what I used was this pry bar there, and a combination of my actual jack, the actual thing to jack up the car, and brute force and ignorance really. They were tight on there, and I turned the steering wheel a couple of times to try and like sort of knock it loose, but it took a lot of strength basically. So yeah, try and get them out best you can. Guys, we are at the point now where we've taken the drive shafts out. Let me get a good angle on that. So that's one of the drive shafts dripping there, and you can see the drive shaft, the short shaft there. So the longer shaft you'll see going to the driver's side, you'll have to either undo these two bolts here that hold the drive shaft in, or I undid 3 bolts at the top, which were the more awkward ones. So just take these 2 bolts out, and that drive shaft should just pull out quite easily. It's the short shaft that you need to get sort of a pry tool on or something. Be creative. Just try not to damage your gearbox, because you basically have to force this drive shaft out and get this spring to sort of compress to get the drive shaft out, because it's sort of, that's the locking mechanism. So now that's done, what we've got now is all the bolts. So let me show you all the bolts holding the drive shaft to the engine. You've also got the lower engine mount there, which we'll have to undo. So yeah, it's quite a few bolts to undo, and then there'll be engine mount bolts that you'll need to take off at the top, and a few wires around the gearbox. But yeah, I'll definitely update you on which bolts need doing definitely. Yeah, having fun, guys. It's going quicker than I thought. It's just dripping in oil, so we'll have to get to the bottom of his oil problem as well, but probably not in this video. Right, so we're back the next day. We had a bit of an issue getting the car out of the garage yesterday because the clutch didn't actually arrive yesterday. I was trying to get it all done yesterday, but that did not happen. So I realized that I didn't explain the best where the bolts were and all that. So I'm going to try and do that whilst it's off the car, because I watched a couple of videos and it didn't explain perfectly where all the bolts were. But basically, the starter goes into the top corner here. You need to remove the bolts for the starter, of course. And you can see there's a few holes here, but they're not all threaded. Some of them are just holes. They work as guides onto the engine, and I'll show you the guides compared to the holes with the threads. So if you just pay attention to the holes with the threads, you can sort of get an idea of how many bolts you actually need to take out of the gearbox. And there's also, this is where the lower engine mount actually bolts in. So let me show you under the engine. So like I said, there's these guides here that sort of mate up the engine so you're not sort of putting it in the wrong sort of way. I'm taking the actual clutch off yet. I've screwed some of the bolts back in, and you can see up here, this is where the starter is. You see the starter poking his head by there. So you basically just have to look around this engine and find where the bolts are. There are a few. I've taken the actual engine mount with the gearbox. I took the battery off the top, but I put it back in just because I had to lock the car last night. So I'll take the battery back off and I'll show you. There's basically just one big threaded sort of bolt that goes up there and a big nut on the top. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment. I know this hasn't been the best sort of tutorial video, but what I'm going to do is take off these 6 bolts now, take the clutch off, clean out the bell housing, and yeah, we'll go from there, guys. Right, so the clutch kit has arrived. We've got the clutch actually there. We've got a single clutch plus the actual pressure plate there. I've also got some clutch spline grease. I normally use the CV or lithium moly, something grease. And I've also got the throwout bearing. So that's the kit. Now we just have to take off the actual clutch from obviously the old one that's gone. We've just finished cleaning up the bell housing there. So let me take off the clutch, and then we'll obviously compare the 2 parts, make sure I got the right one here, and then we'll go ahead and reassemble. Right, so all 6 bolts are taken off. So I'm just gonna take this pressure plate off and the clutch and see what we've got. Right, so I just got the pressure plate and the old clutch on. Let me put them up against each other. We have got some beautiful weather right now. It was awful this morning, but yeah, that is the difference in thickness sort of thing. So I'm happy to replace this clutch, and yeah, there's definitely a groove in there where it's obviously worn down. So yeah, we're just gonna clean up the flywheel now and just do the reverse of what we've just done, guys.
2,000 years later.
Right, guys, so as you can see, we are in the exact same position as the last clip, basically. It's a couple of days later, and the gearbox is, well, back off. I made the entire rest of the video, and it turns out that I had the clutch in the wrong way. I took it out exactly like this, and as you can see there, gear side, and that mates up to the engine like that. So this needs to be flipped around and reinstalled. I just spent the last 2 hours taking this gearbox back apart. It's not an easy job. definitely not an easy job. So please, 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 if you learn anything from this video, is make sure you read the instructions or pay attention to which side the clutch needs to be facing. The only reason I made this mistake was because I was doing it fast and I didn't pay attention, and I was following YouTube videos and I should have just used different bits of information. And one of the videos did say, I think it was a Chris Fix video, and he said the belly side goes into the flywheel like that, into the pressure plate like that, and I didn't even think to check what was said on either side or instructions. I've never replaced the clutch properly, in all honesty. I've just put gearboxes back on, so I have made that mistake and it has costed me dearly. Please, please, please don't make the mistake I have just done. So back to the install. I'm going to use my clutch alignment tool, which is here, and we're going to pop this back on there. I'm going to give it another clean, and yeah, we're going to just do the exact reverse of what I've just done twice. You've seen me do it once so far. This is the second time I've done this, so hopefully this will go so much quicker, and hopefully I'll be able to explain a lot better than I did the first time I recorded this clip. So sorry about the confusion, but put your clutch in the right way. This may seem like a silly one, but make sure your clutch fits over the splines, and yeah, basically you know it's gonna fit back on then. Pretty simple one there, but I think that's a pretty good tip. So I've got video evidence. Gearbox side is clearly facing the gearbox, which is that way. So now I'm going to try and marry up the gearbox on my own. I had Jack the other day. I'm going to try and do this one man. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen tonight, and I'll have to pick it up tomorrow and try and get help. But yeah, I'll let you know how that goes. Alright, so really proud moment. I managed to get this gearbox on by myself. I find that getting these two top bolts here and there with a massive extensions are your best friend. I've got these two sort of double with a 13mm deep on the end, and what I had to do, you might be able to pick up in the time lapse, is I had my legs supporting the gearbox and one arm sort of like push. You've got to keep force there, like pushing it forward, and force from the bottom just to keep it aligned. And then what I did, you need abs as well. You need good abs, because I was leaning forward and just ratcheting as quick as I possibly could, because your neck is actually off the floor. You don't realize how much of your neck and your abs that you actually use doing this. So I got those two top bolts there, and I got the longest bolt there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get the rest of the bolts in, and then it's back up and get everything back together. I might be able to do this before it gets dark. I will definitely update you and see where I get. Fair play. I'm so happy with it. Little update. I have pressed the pedal in a good couple of times, pumped it, and I've got my longest pry bar and some blue cloth keeping the pedal down, and I've moved the chair all the way forward. What I'm going to do now is just crack off the bleed nipple, which is this one on the left here. I'll try and get it on camera. I've connected up obviously the clutch line. Okay, I felt a lot of fluid come out then, so I'm gonna crack it back. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is pump the pedal again and do that same thing again. Pump that a couple more times and it's held down now. So all you do is crack it all the way to the left. Yeah. No more air. Crack it back off and clean up your mess. And that should be it. I hope. It's also quite accessible once you put the gearbox back up and all that. So if it's not bled correctly at this point, don't stress too much, because we can get it once it's all back together. So yeah, I've connected all the ground straps. So this little piggy by here, that's an 8mm bolt on top of there, and then this is the 15mm. And I've also, if you see where my finger is there, let me zoom in on that. Yeah, that's the other earth strap, and I've got the nut on there nice and tight. So this gearbox is ready to go back up. Right, so drive shafts are in, and the 32mm bolts are holding them in. Also got these bottom ball joints, bottom arms in. So what I'm going to do now is fill up the gearbox with fluid, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So I have my 75 W90 gearbox oil here. What I'm going to be using is this syringe to fill up the gearbox. This is a 200ml syringe, and I believe the gearbox takes about 2.7 liters of gearbox oil. So what you do is get your syringe, slow, bring up the fluid from the bottle, what I'm going to do is wipe on my way and then go and fill up the gearbox from the top, which I'll show you. Bottom bolt there, and we have the top bolt to actually fill up the gearbox. So what we're going to do, we're going to use this T50, crack off the bolt, take the bolt off, and then what we're going to do, we're going to fill it up with the syringe, keep repeating the syringe until liquid starts coming out of this hole. And what you want to do then is bung it up with this. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing now. So it's back on the floor now. What I've been doing, as I couldn't get it into gear whilst the engine was running, so I've got my longest pry bar and just this blue roll, just keep it. I pump the pedal a couple of times, and then leave it held down, and then I'll be getting under the car, and I've been just cracking off. I'm going to try it again now, see if I've got the clutch. First, second, third, fourth and fifth. So hopefully got reverse. Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is put you up on the tripod and see if this thing actually moves. So wish me luck. This is the biggest job I've ever done for someone. So there's a lot on this, guys. result. I stole it straight away.